Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old former Ivy League student, has been charged with the second-degree murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, who was fatally shot in New York City. Maggioni was arrested in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's and faces multiple charges, including forgery and criminal possession of firearm, along with the second-degree murder charges. He has pleaded not guilty and is fighting extradition to New York. His defense attorney has argued there is no evidence linking him to the murder. In fact, his attorney is saying money is pouring in to help with the defense.
We had seen reports earlier that there was, people were inundating you with offers to help pay for his legal bills. Is that accurate?
I have received some emails. I have not seen them personally, but my understanding from my staff is people are doing that.
That people are reaching out to you and offering to help pay for his legal bills.
That's correct.
Joining us now, Roshini Rajkumar, attorney, political strategist, and host of the Crisis Files. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Kevin. So much to unpack here.
I know. This whole the merchandise story and the people giving bad reviews to the McDonald's and the social media posts, calling this guy a hero. It's a lot to take in for somebody, who's covered crime the way I have, the way you did as a reporter. In a case, and I'm not saying he's guilty because I don't know, but in what was obviously, a blatant murder, to see all of this support, it's a little troubling for me. I don't know. How do you see it?
Well, let's just start with the law. Statutorily, there is a murder statute and it has lesser crimes underneath it. If indeed police can prove that guy, we've seen now countless times pointing a gun at a man who we are told was Brian Thompson in the back in Midtown Manhattan. If indeed police can prove, just take away what you think about the health industry and any kind of other pieces of this, that is a statutory crime, and the state of New York has every right, and in fact should, charge that crime out. Okay, so if somehow there is some defense, whether it's insanity or something else, if that person in that video is in fact Luigi, then he is the killer. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of sympathies you have. Then layer onto that the entire other story, which is whatever grievances you may have for the healthcare industry. This person did die. He's a real person. He had a family. Even if he was if it turns out he was an unsavory human being, he's not supposed to be gunned down in Midtown Manhattan, USA. So that's kind of what I'm going to say from the legal perspective, Kevin.
Yeah, we don't get to be judge, jury, and executioner. There's a system in place for that. Why the second-degree murder charge? Is that something that can be changed later if they decide first-degree murder is the right way to go?
Well, usually, if I am understanding the statutes and criminal lawyers correctly and prosecutors correctly, usually they start with the higher ones so that all the lesser charges are included. I mean, it could just be they feel with what they know now, the evidence that they're finding, and keep in mind, there are layers of evidence that the police have, the FBI has, that we don't know yet. So based on those layers of evidence, that is what any kind of prosecutor, you're going to go and charge out the crime you feel you can get a verdict, a conviction for. And if that ends up being second-degree murder, I think anyone that has any kind of trust and faith in the system, this should not happen to anybody in Midtown Manhattan, regardless of your economic status. And that's how the law has to apply. What did the statute say? What can the police, what can the prosecutor prove out based on the evidence that the police gather?
The defense attorney, and he has to do his job, no problem there. But saying there's no evidence linking his client to the murder, it seems like there's an awful lot of evidence in this case.
Well, the first time I heard that last night on TV, I laughed out loud. I mean, again, you have to say that as a defense attorney, because what he's trying to probably do is start putting doubt in our minds that figure you saw in that video, we all saw in that video, is not his client, Luigi. That's the kind of doubt he's starting to put in. So, this is probably a very good defense attorney. I have no idea. All I know is that he cannot sound like he thinks his client is guilty. I mean, you just don't do that as a criminal defense attorney.
The internet working overtime on conspiracy theories, trying to say they're making it look like it's Luigi when it really is some other plot or some other people, and other people saying, oh, well, Luigi's a patsy in a bigger operation here. When it comes down to the evidence, what kind of things does it take to show that the guy in the video is the guy in the courtroom?
Well, it seems like, based on what we've heard from initial reports, there are some good pieces of evidence they can check. They got those fingerprints from that Starbucks glass, right, that was in the trash. If those fingerprints are Luigi's, that's as close to a smoking gun with the rest of the chain of evidence that they may have. So there are some definite pieces. That whole thing about the fake New Jersey license and people at that Upper Manhattan, New York hostel that saw the person that seems to be Luigi. I mean, there were a lot of things. There are layers between eyewitness testimony, actual receipts on credit cards, and different things about that 3D gun, that gun that was made, if that's all clearly linked. And then we hear about this manifesto that's being talked about. And, I'd like to see what comes out in the next few days about what they're able to get Luigi to say, or what Luigi's defense attorney says on his behalf about that manifesto, because it is pretty damning.
Yeah, he was still, or they found a gun on him. They should be able to determine if that gun was the gun used to shoot Brian Thompson, correct?
Yes, but I want to say that, and I'm not a forensic expert, but part of the problem with those created guns, 3D guns, ghost guns, different names we've heard, is that because someone actually made them, there is no serial number attached to it. So it does break up that kind of chain of custody of a piece of evidence very much that is not helpful for the police. But I think there are so many other pieces of evidence that they can bring in combined with the gun possession, the gun use, what was used to kill Brian Thompson, that's going to be less of a problem because of some of the other layers of evidence that it sounds like they have here.
The manifesto, it's going to lay out that Luigi had issues with the healthcare system. Does any of that make any difference? That doesn't create a defense. The fact that you feel you were wronged by somebody.
No, not at all. I mean, Kevin, you and I used to be in TV news, and there are some news directors that we're not very savory. We can't go and gun them down. We would have no defense whatsoever. So this is why I always start with the law. What does the statute say? And each state has very clear murder statutes on the books. It's a particularly good area where legislators have made elements of the crime very clear in their states, as well as just overall in law school. Criminal law is a required class that we take. Everyone has to take it, even if you go on to practice a different kind of law.
Right.
So the elements of every crime are in those statutes, and that's what a prosecutor charges out and tries to prove in court. The defense has its day in court too, and
Yep.
it can say things against it for sure.
Roshini Rashkumar, attorney, political strategist, and host of the Crisis Files podcast. Thanks so much.
Thank you.